Yo, what's going on with y'all? It's your boy NeohXO, and today I'm gonna be reviewing Black Clover episode 131. So this episode was really good to me. It took a step back and it slowed down a little bit. For those of you who read the manga, you pretty much know the manga is just like back to back to back. It just is fast paced, and that's really cool. You know, it means you never really get bored because it's always something new. But this episode took a step back, and like I said in one of my other videos, I'm gonna leave a link. Pretty much the anime is kind of doing its own thing right now, meaning like it's having like an anime only kind of arc and stuff like that. I made a video on that, y'all can check it out. But yeah, I really like the direction they're going because none of the stuff that they're doing in the anime interferes with the manga. Like this stuff makes sense because, you know, in the manga comes out obviously before the anime. So it seems like the animators, they really took into consideration how the anime fits into the manga, even though the material that they're adapting is anime only. So they make sure the anime only stuff fits in with the stuff that happened in the manga, if that makes sense. But specifically speaking about this episode, I really liked it because it showed a lot of character dynamics. A lot of these character dynamics we already seen before, like, for example, Noel and Asta. We know that Noel likes Asta, but we also know that Asta's like ignorant to the fact that she likes him. He has no clue. I don't know how he has no clue, but hey, he has no clue. And it further solidifies this. And we already knew this, but like when I mean further solidifies it, it means it, you know, it kind of builds on top of what we already know. And pretty much make sure we know it for a fact, pretty much. You know, in case we had any doubt, it makes us know it for a fact. So the episode starts off with something that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the Asta and Noel moment. We know, so in the future, if they ever do get together, we're going to look back to moments like this, and it's going to be like a memory for them, you know? Or like, I can already see YouTube videos, like if they get married or something in the future. Speaking of marriage, they talked about that in this episode a little bit too. But like if they ever get married or something in the future, I know YouTubers, AMV makers are going to look back at this moment and they're going to be like, oh, look at them when they were like younger. And you know, pretty much Noelle is gaining control of her broom. She can now fly on her broom. In the beginning, she could not fly on the broom at all. And in this episode, I'm gonna say she was decent at it. I'm not gonna say she was perfect because she wasn't perfect at it, but I would say she decent at it, and definitely a huge improvement from the beginning of the anime. So we're seeing that develop here. That's something that wasn't in the manga. So if Noelle would have just popped up in the manga, you know, without like, if she would have just popped up in the manga with a broom, we should not be surprised because in the anime they touched on that she's practicing. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean, how they tie together. Like the manga and the anime tie together. I had someone ask me if I read the manga, and yes, I read the manga, but I also watch the anime. It seems like a lot of people are one or the other. And in my opinion, you can't get the full context of the series through one or the other because they build on top of each other. And that's what I try to stress a lot to people. But, you know, some people just don't like one or the other for whatever reason, even though they're pretty much the same series. But one of the gag moments that I really enjoyed in this episode was kind of a throwback to the beginning of the series. In the beginning of the series, we always got Asta asking Sister Lily to marry him, and she would always use her magic, and she would punch him with her magic, basically. And we got that in this episode. We've seen it a million times, but it never gets old. It's kind of like it's their thing, you know what I mean? So we expect it, and I'm glad they delivered because, you know, every time we ask to see Sister Lily, he proposes, and she, of course, denies, and then we get that whole little bit. It's like a bit of Black Clover, you know what I mean? It gives Black Clover an identity. It gives Asta and Sister Lily a dynamic. We also see another dynamic with Yuno and Asta, and this is probably the most important dynamic in the whole show, on the fact that they are rivals. You know what I mean? And at the end of the episode, they touched upon this. So they said they're equals. They said this in the episode. Asta says pretty much, he's like, so I guess we can consider each other equals at this point in time. You know what I mean? A lot of people always like to question who's stronger, Asta or Yuno. And right now they're saying, at certain points they're going to be stronger than one another. That's just how it goes. You cannot be, always at the same level. So right now they're saying at this time, right now, that they're equals. And kind of laughs it off. He's like, nah. But at the end of the day, he gives Asta a fist bump, meaning like you're right, pretty much. That's just an iconic fist bump whenever they agree on something, pretty much. Like they did back in the beginning whenever they agreed to become the Wizard King together. That's another throwback. This episode pretty much had a lot of fan service. I'm not gonna lie. I love the fan service in this episode. Something else that was really important is they built the school in Hage Village. I don't believe that they touched on this in the manga, but it seems like the next generation is gonna have a lot more stronger mages coming from Hage Village, because they have a school to train up these magic knights. Or, excuse me, I wouldn't call them exactly magic knights. I would call them aspiring magic knights. And not all of them probably are going to become magic knights. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they actually believe in themselves now. Because before Asta, they didn't think that, orphans or peasants can become magic knights. But Asta and Yuno showed them that, hey, it's possible. And that just goes to show like the effect that they have on each other. Asta has on people, and and they're inspiring a new generation. And that Asta and Yuno are very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very integral to the plot of Black Clover, because they're shaping the whole future of the Black Clover universe. Because one of them, I believe, is going to become the Wizard King, and this is pretty much their journey. And you can tell that they're worthy of it, because they're changing people's lives. Julius also changed people's lives, and so did Lumiere. So they're fitting Wizard Kings. Another thing that I want to touch on is Nash. Nash really is inspired by Asta, even though he doesn't show it. But you can tell because he does push-ups and he drinks the juice that Asta used to drink to get his magic up. Even though the juice is incredibly disgusting, he still does it because he looks up to Asta so much. And I believe Nash is going to be a very, very powerful character in the future. We also see some of Nero. Nero is cool. She pretty much, since the beginning of the series, she's been with Asta and Noel, because she used to be in bird form at the beginning of the series, but now she can transform in between her bird form and her human form. Speaking of her human form, I really like the design of her human form. I really like the dress. She stands out amongst the rest of the cast, in my opinion, and I really like her design. But it seems like they are a 3-person squad now. It seems like it's Asta, Noel, and Nero. They've always been that way, but the difference is now that Nero can talk. In the beginning, she couldn't talk, so we didn't even know she was anything more than a bird in the beginning. And now she can talk, and now she has a human form. You know what I mean? The human form is actually her true form, but the bird form, I guess she's grown so comfortable with it, and it's so useful to her, she could just straight up like fly with her wings and stuff, not even using up any mana, and she's just used to it at that point. So pretty much, I think it's really nice that now they have a third member pretty much. Now, I know on most missions they add people or they remove people, but I just like how Nero is always in the mix somehow. She's been there since the beginning, and now she has more depth to her character now that she can actually speak. But I just like how it really shows the planning, because they really planned this out since the beginning of the series, and I think that's really nice. We see that the children really look up to Asta and Yuno But even though that they look up to them, they are still children at the end of the day. So they wanted to, it's cool. They want to train their magic, but they also want to play. And I thought it was really funny how Yuno played with the children. He kind of, it doesn't seem like really in his character too much, but he still did it on the fact that he cares for Hage Village. And them going visit Hage Village, that was a nice touch, because that's where they're from. And I would hate to see them turn their back on Hage Village, and it seems like they're never going to do that. In the earlier episode, even betrayed a order from his higher up of the Golden Dawn to go save Hage Village. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one.